And oh no, I'm not. I'm doing that wrong. Oh, where have you gone? You've gone. You don't want to see my emails. That's a definite. So stop sharing. I've shared the wrong thing. Let's share my screen. Window. And here we go. So hopefully now you can quickly see the agenda. Is that up, Mike? Can you tell me?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so very quickly what the aims of the Help to Thrive project are, that's kindly been funded by UK government funding through what was called Shared Prosperity. Where this webinar fits into the whole project, the project started in September, and then Mike will cover working with the travel trade, your chance to answer any questions and how we can support you further with this project and your business aims as well. So the project really is based on data that we've been gathering, and it's to work with you as businesses to help create and market new experiences which help that visitor dispersal and get visitors to spend locally. So like Michael was saying up at Cleve Common, you know, you've got your visitors, but actually how can we engage them better? And it could be that it's driving visitors to the high streets, so getting several businesses to work together, but it's also about bringing your experiences that you may have already to a wider audience. And there will be sort of virtual webinars. We've had some already, and we've got some recordings, so we can share that with you. Then there's some face-to-face workshops as well. So I know a lot of you have already attended one of the Experience Maker workshops that we held in October, and that's great. But due to demand, we are, and also to make sure we reach those businesses that are perhaps one-man bands and find it hard to do something during the day, we are holding a virtual one on the 14th of January, which will be in the very early evening. So hopefully enabling more people to come along to that. We've held a workshop recently looking at sort of arriving by bike and walking and sustainable transport methods. If there's demand, we'll hold a second one. So again, if this is something, I'm thinking sort of Cleve Common here, this could be something for yourselves, let us know and we will put that on. And we held a storytelling workshop yesterday, which I know Edith and Liz and Emma were on. And again, you know, from that helps you develop content for your websites and your social media. We're going to be having a sustainable focus in the new year and looking at marketing, and there was a request yesterday for more social media help, so we will take this forward. Looking at where we are in the programme, so this is where what we're going to cover today, understanding the travel trade and starting your journey. So it's very light-hearted and looking at that, and then there will be some follow-up from you as businesses. I will follow up with all the dates that are listed here. We've got another workshop with Mike on the 9th of December, looking at the tools to help you get noticed, including AI and digital transformation will come in the new year. So I don't think there's any accommodation providers on, so we'll skip that slide and actually hand over to Mike Newman, who's one of the consultants we're working with on this project. Mike's been in the tourism business for a long time now and has got specialist trade knowledge, which we all speak in a lot of acronyms in the tourism industry, and it can often be overlooked and misunderstood as to what travel trade is. So I'm going to stop sharing and Mike, hand over to you so you can help these businesses understand a little bit more.
I will do my level best. Right, let me do this, which I hope you can all see. Good morning. Thank you very much, Sally, for the introduction. I am Mike, and I'm very nice. And I try and make these workshops as painless as humanly possible. wherever I can. I've worked in the travel industry for about 25 years now. I was extremely young when I came in, and I had never really left. So I specialize in working with very small businesses and also with some very large ones, but across the sort of the entire sector. I try and support understanding of how the industry works, what you need to do, what you can expect to get out of it, how long it's going to take, where you can turn for help, and so forth. So I'm going to start off just with a kind of a recap of some of the key things. I know most of you weren't on my workshop a couple of weeks ago, so this is first time knowledge for most of you. And if you were there, then this is in fact a recap. But this is really just to go and cover the key aspects for you. So we're going to start off just with a working definition, if you like, of what the travel trade is. As Sally alluded to, we're very, very good at taking fairly arbitrary words, stringing them together and expecting everyone to follow what we're talking about. But the travel trade is the most common one. It's a very generic term, and it is basically used to describe the relationship between suppliers, which is all of you guys, and people who will be buying your product. So if you look on the right side of the screen, it's always going to always be about visitors. Visitors is what matters. It's what matters to you. It's what matters to the people who are contracting with you to sell your product. Now, these visitors are brought in through a variety of different channels, and they can be from the top international tour operators. They can be what we call destination management companies. Now, these are a specialist type of tour operator who are, if you can imagine, they are like Aldi or Lidl. They put together a central aisle of all kinds of different products, and they allow travel agencies around the world or smaller tour operators around the world to build their own itineraries based on all of the various different aspects of products that they've got. So it could be visitor experiences, it could be car hire, it can be attractions, it could be all kinds of stuff. Whereas a tour operator themselves will say, this is the tour that I am offering. And you turn up on these days because these are our departure days. You will be in the UK for this many days, and then you will leave again. You then have the online travel agencies. Now, these are the digital platforms, some of which you may have heard of, like Get Your Guide or TripAdvisor Experiences, Viator, Tickets, and so forth. These are the kind of the big digital platforms that consumers go onto, and they build their own itineraries for themselves, and then you work with them. And we will talk about what the differences are between the online channels and tour operators and destination management companies in a moment. You then have, because it's very important not to negate them, the domestic market, which some of you may already be working with. So these could be domestic group organizers, like mainly retirement groups, U3A, the WI, and so forth, or coach operators. And finally, you have the opportunity to upload product directly for people to see through the Cotswolds tourism website. That's kind of all the different routes, if you like, in a very convoluted nutshell. Now, the reason that people use these routes are really threefold. And it's really based down to speed. It's quick to do this. You don't have to think for yourself. You can have a look at stuff. You can make a decision. You can do it on your tablet. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your desktop. You can do it on your laptop. Increasingly, you can ask AI platforms, which is what we're going to be talking about next week. Find me a 3-day trip for 4 people in the Cotswolds, and then the AI will source information to find a tour operator that's offering that kind of a trip or this kind of thing. So this is going to be the way forward. So there's choice, and it's really, really, really important to make that choice as easy as possible so you are found. And as I say, it's convenient. It's the way that people want to book. And we may say, well, we want people to come to our own websites and book with us. Well, that's great. And that is brilliant for people that know your website is there. But for all the people living in America or in Australia or anywhere else in the world who don't know about your website, they won't find you, because if you try and Google things to do in the Cotswolds, things to do in Tewkesbury, Get Your Guide are going to be first, or Viator, or one of the other OTAs. Why? Because they spend millions and millions and millions of pounds on SEO. So you can't compete. We don't have those kind of budgets available. SEO, for anyone who doesn't know what that stands for, is search engine optimization, which basically means that Google will rank you 1, 2, or 3. And if you're not found 1, 2, or 3, most people, the consumer, and if you think about your own consumer behavior, you don't tend to scroll down until you can find the second or the third search page on Google if you're looking for something. So it comes down to convenience. Okay. There are 6 things that we need to remember about our products to make them sellable through the travel industry, or more generically, through third-party distribution. The first, which is, if you can see my mouse moving, your product must be bookable and it must be commissionable. There must be a reason for a tour operator or an online travel agency to sell your product. They are marketing it for free, so they must get paid when they've confirmed the sale. So you're bookable and commissionable. That's your fundamental. The next thing is that it needs to be available as often as possible, ideally every day. The more often it is available, the easier it is to sell. The third thing is you need to be able to make your product bookable as far in advance as you possibly can, at least 12 months. And that may mean that we need to have a conversation afterwards about how you can achieve that. And we can talk about how that can be managed. But we don't entirely know when people are going to be booking. If you're planning a big trip and you don't want to leave everything till the last minute, and you may think, oh, I didn't know I could go to a lavender field in the Cotswolds, to pick on one of you who mentioned that. Well, the lavender season isn't year round, as we all know. And so you might want to book it a year in advance to get your tickets, because you know when you're coming. So if you only put your tickets on sale 3 weeks beforehand, people won't be able to see that you're there, and therefore they won't book with you, and therefore you're potentially losing revenue. Now, if we go along the bottom line where the numbers are, that's about your venue's capacity. That's about how many people you can cope with. Can you cope with people? So one of you, for example, does bike rentals. Well, how many bikes do you have? Can you cope with 5 people at a time, 10 people at a time? Can you cope with a combination of adult bikes and child bikes? I mean, this is just one example, and I'm not picking on individual businesses. I'm just highlighting how capacity matters. So if we go back again to the lavender field, and you can cope with 1,000 people an hour because you've got acres and acres of lavender, then that's great. Then you don't have a capacity issue. But if you do, then you need to be aware of what the capacity issue is. And that brings us on to our next thing, which is our seasonality. Now, some of you will be a year-round product. Some of you will be a seasonal product. It's really important to think along the reality of when your product is available. Because if you're putting your sales out for 12 months in advance and you are closed for 5 of those months, which some businesses are. Some businesses close in November and don't open again until Easter. But then you need to think about that in terms of how people will react to discovering they can't visit you. So how do you manage that in terms of what you say to tour operators so tour operators can support you? Or if you're using an online channel, how do you manage that to say we are not available? Do you treat yourself as closed, or do you treat yourself as sold out? It's 2 very different perspectives to achieve the same thing. You can't come. And the final thing is just to say on this slide is think about which markets are relevant for you. Just because you've heard or you've read that China is a fast growing, very heavy spending, very popular market for across the Cotswolds region doesn't mean that your product is necessarily suitable for the Chinese market. I'm not saying it isn't, but if you don't have, for example, translated materials into Mandarin or Cantonese, if you've got a restaurant on site and you would like to do a package so that people can come and eat at your venue, many Chinese people are lactose intolerant. Are you taking that into account? Young Chinese people will use a knife and fork because they're used to traveling. Older Chinese people will not use a knife and fork because they've never used them. So do you have chopsticks? So as you can see, there are lots of things. The GCC markets, so the Middle Eastern markets, are predominantly Muslim. Do you have a space for people to pray? They may need that because people who follow Islam will pray 5 times a day. Do you have a space that's not a broom cupboard? Do you, for example, have or have you ever considered offering prayer mats to Muslim visitors? As an example, these are things that we take into account when we're looking at the right markets for us. Excuse me. If you are thinking about working with some of the online channels, and maybe some of you already are, for example, if you sell your product through TripAdvisor experiences, that doesn't mean that you just have reviews on TripAdvisor. It means that you've got a contract with them. Or Get Your Guide, or Viator, or Tickets, or Head Out. There are a number of OTA channels. Or if you work on the gifting market, so you might work with Virgin Experience Days, for example, if you have an experience. You need to have a minimum price point to make it work for them, and that price point is £8. You need to be available every day of the week. And ideally, you need to have an API. And the API, for any of you who aren't aware, it stands for Application Programming Interface, but that's not the important bit. The important bit is what an API is, and an API is an ability for a third-party platform like Get Your Guide or TripAdvisor Experiences to see the live availability from your own website, from your own booking system. It's a connection between your booking system and theirs, and it's only something that is created by contract. And it can take a few months to organize that. And we will be talking about it. We'll be doing a whole session on digital transformation. Okay. The fundamental is, and the most important point is to say for all of this, is that if you have capacity that is spare, you have the opportunity to make money through a third party. Okay, whether it's through a tour operator or through an online travel platform, you have an opportunity to make money. And that, generally speaking, is a good thing from a business's perspective. So I just want to talk a little bit about FITs. Now, many of you will focus on groups as being the main source of your business, but there is a growing and very strong trend for smaller visitor numbers traveling together. Now, FIT, or fully independent traveler, or free independent traveler, however you want to define it, is any number from 1 through to what you would currently consider to be a group. Now, you may say, well, for us, a group is 15. Others, you say, well, for us, a group is 12. For others, a group might be 20. The point being is that whether they are traveling as families from the UK or from internationally, whether they are booking through a tour operator or through an online travel agency, and bear in mind, all bookings that come through an online travel agency or an OTA will be FIT in nature. Okay, they may be low in number, but they are highly flexible in when they can travel. And you may say to me, well, for example, Mike, the thing is for us is that Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sundays, we are really busy. So we are only really interested potentially on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday business. Everything after that, we're not fussed about. Well, the truth is about travelers, particularly those who are FIT in nature, is that for them, every day on holiday is a weekend. They don't care what day of the week it is. But if you have this capacity on Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, that is when you offer the most available time slots to your OTA portal. Because you've got the capacity, the person who's on holiday couldn't care less if it's a Monday, and you can give them a great time plus make money. Okay? And also, FITs tend to spend more money than groups because they've got more flexibility and they are looking for more exclusive experiences. And we're going to be discussing this a little bit more. So here are some learning points. Just to kind of recap on the recap. Smaller groups are common through the travel industry. We need more ways of getting people around, more guides, more people who can offer bike tours to help people potter around. It's all part of the ground handling experience. It's all part of moving people from A to B. Okay, food and drink experiences, bragging rights, only here, exceptional opportunities. This is what everybody is asking for. Okay. The truth is, and there aren't any hoteliers on this, but if you work with hoteliers, you might want to reinforce this message. If hotels in key destinations like the Cotswolds do not offer FIT rates, so individual prices, lots of hotels will only offer group rates to the travel industry, the tour operators will not stay in the Cotswolds. And if the tour operators do not stay in the Cotswolds, it has a massive impact on businesses like yours, because you will become part of a half-day trip, because the chances are you will be packaged up into a trip that will also be going to somewhere like Windsor or Oxford or somewhere else. That means there is fewer hours for you to get a look in for your product. So the hotels are key to developing the FIT product for this entire region. And the more bookable experiences that come along, the more opportunities the tour operators have to say, this sounds brilliant. Let's do this. And electric car charging points. If you have them, this is brilliant. You need to let people know, because particularly the German and the Dutch market, who tend to come across by ferry, will come across in electric cars. And if they've got somewhere they can charge their vehicle, ideally at an accommodation provider, but also at visitor experiences. If you've got them, tell people about them. Brilliant. And really, really super helpful. So you are now no longer at your start point. We will now get the adventure moving. And I hope you're super excited. This is the only statistic that I'm going to provide you with for this entire session, promise. Around 1 in 3 of all trips booked to the UK or booked to Britain are part of a package created through the travel trade. That's not me making this up. This is MIDAS. This is a government report which stands for Motivations, Influences, Decisions and Sustainability. The last one was done in 2022. The tourism industry is worth £257 billion. It contributes 7.2% of the gross domestic product of the United Kingdom. That puts us up with the car industry. Tourism is big, big, big business, and you are part of that. So it is incredibly important for you, as you find your feet in this industry, to do your research. It's to think back on some of the things that I was talking about earlier. It is to think about your seasonality, it's to think about your price point, it's to think about your venue capacities, it's to think about how far in advance you can put your product on sale, and then think about the markets, and then who, by working with Sally, you can then talk to reach out to those tour operators, to those destination management companies, those online travel agencies who can support you in your business goals. Okay, we do not fly blind in this industry. We think about it, we plan it, and we crack on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open this up to you. So if you could all, those of you who are willing to or able to, can switch on your cameras and come off mute. This is just a little confidence checker. All right, this is just a little bit of sense checking from you. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, unless of course you keep your camera off. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but have a look at the questions that I've just put up on the screen. Do you have confidence in your product? This is from a travel and tourism perspective. This is not a, my product is epic. I love my product. I'm glad for that. I'm talking about, do you have confidence in this from a travel industry? Do you have a USP? Do you have a unique selling point, an angle that you can create for tour operators? Do you have things like the backroom office? Do you have a booking system on your website? Do you know, have you ever asked, is it connectable via API? If you've got staff on site, do they have buy-in to what you are thinking about doing? Do you know your markets? And there is also, just at the bottom, there is a Visit Britain training events webinar that you can have a look at. I'm going to stop talking. You're going to keep this on screen. I'm going to ask you, any of you, I'm not going to pick on you, although if you happen to be called Hannah, that really helps because there's about 11 of you. And if you happen to be called Michael, that also helps because that's my name and there's at least 2 of you. And if you happen to be called Andy, that's great because that's a brilliant name. Right, over to you people. Just come off mute, fire some thoughts.
I'm going to step in and say I wonder whether a lot of you are actually at the very beginning of your travel trade journey and not even maybe considered working with the trade. Would that be the right?
I'm going to start picking on people soon.
Volunteering. Yeah, I would say that's correct, Sally. I've never thought about tying up with the travel trade, the whole industry. But I do have back office booking system. I do believe it does have connectability to other. I haven't explored that.
Edith, do you know what your booking system's called? I don't mean it's called George, but yeah, you're on Fair Harbour. That's fine. You're absolutely connectable.
Yeah.
Does anyone else like to? One of the 11 Hannahs. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, I mean, we've got confidence in our product overall, and definitely we've got the USB for the travel industry. Our issue is because we're only open for 8-9 weeks of the summer, is the booking system. It's incredibly expensive for us to put in a booking system that we're only going to be using for 8 weeks of the year. So at the moment, it's pay when you arrive. I mean, tour groups can pre-book in advance with the office and can pay by invoice and things afterwards. That's fine. But there isn't actually an online booking system. It's getting in touch with the office to do it.
And I think that's fine because what you can do is, because you've got a short run, you can, if you wanted to work with an OTA, for example, if you wanted to open yourself up to online channels, as long as you are willing to go onto the portal, their portal, every day and say what time slots you're willing to sell, you can do it manually. You don't have to have an API. And for offline tour operators, traditional tour operators, they will confirm visitor numbers for you weeks in advance if you require that.
Mm.
So you can work with them even though because of, sorry, yours is the lavender fields, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for something like that, which is massively popular, I live in Hertfordshire, and our lavender fields around here are absolutely mobbed.
Mm.
And so I completely get how beautiful they are, and they are a real win. They are our equivalent of, you know, the tulip fields, and this is why they like it. It's so kind of typically British. It works really well, you know, lavender, sunflower fields, these kind of things. It's brilliant and it's wonderful, and you should absolutely, if you have the capacity, you should absolutely do it through the travel trade, even though you're short season. Everyone understands that. You know,
Yeah, we have some coach groups that come to us already, but at the moment we're sort of relying on the ones coming to us. It's working out how we get to them and let others know about us and all that sort of thing.
And that would be liaising through Sally.
Yeah, definitely, Hannah. And sort of, if you end up doing, you know, different experiences from I know some of the lavender fields have done sort of supper evenings and things like that, and to expand the capacity of getting people through the doors. So we can definitely talk about that afterwards.
Thank you.
And just one more thing on that. The other thing, what I would also say, Hannah, particularly for you with the lavender fields, is for when you're thinking about your travel trade product, package in the retail element as well. People will buy stuff from you, but but you can make it into a more palatable product on a price point by making it slightly more expensive, but including a lavender thing you put under your pillow kind of thing. That's the sort of thing. But again, we can have this conversation afterwards, but I hope this might also be useful for anybody else. Has anyone else got anything they'd like to throw into the mix right now? Particularly if it's complicated. If you've got a hugely complicated product that's likely to tie me in knots, bring it on.
Okay.
Otherwise, silence is acquiescence. So you're all you're either all gone, or you're still having a good time. All right, so we'll keep going. Right, this is my little who's who, mainly of acronyms, just to kind of make it complicated. DMCs is the acronym for Destination Management Company. So these are the people who will put your product into the central aisle, the equivalent of Aldi or Lidl, and will let tour operators and travel agencies pick and choose product. OTAs are your online travel agencies. You'll get your guides, your Expedia, although they work slightly differently, but TripAdvisor Experiences, Viator, Klook, all of these guys. FITs, as we said earlier, is your fully independent travelers. Now, these are all your internationals. Inbound, when we use the word inbound, we mean not from the UK. When we use the word domestic, we mean from the UK. That's just a way of differentiating. And as you continue on your journey, you will hear this phrase, inbound or domestic. They're not interchangeable. They mean completely separate parts of the country, parts of the world. So inbound is any business, any visitor that has not started their journey from the UK. Okay. Domestic means that they are living in the UK currently. And that will cover things like social groups, coach groups, school groups, and so forth. So your product needs to be sellable through the travel trade, not just in theory, but in practice too. So our core boxes that we tick are, is our product reliable? i.e., can we deliver it over and over again? Is it replicable? So is it something where when the tour operator will say, yeah, we're putting this into our brochure or putting this onto our website, you know that it's all good. So it has to be, I should actually really, it said reliable, it's not really replicable. Reliable is much more, is that if you say it's going to be great, let it be great. Okay, and that comes back to making sure that you're not trying to oversell time slots, or you are not saying that you're open when you're closed, or you don't suddenly have a product where you go, oh, it's raining, we're going to close today, but we haven't told anyone. That's about the reliability. Replicability is, can we do this every day? And the final one is robust. Now, not everything always goes right. We know that. So it might be that your group arrives late. It might be that the weather is horrible. It might be that there is staff sickness and maybe one of your front of house people isn't available. It can be anything. We need to be able to roll with the punches. Now, predominantly, this is something that you guys will do all the time. You know, whether a bike has a flat tire or, you know, something's happened that's been impacted by the weather or whatever it is. If it goes wrong, we don't just pull down the shutters and go, forget it, we'll come back another day. We roll with it, and that's about the robustness. So the 3 R's are reliability, replicability, and robustness. And if you can tick those boxes, you're already off to a really, really good start. But the thing is this, don't just assume that your product as it is today, the one that you sell to consumers, the one that you sell to walk-ups or through your own website or through a phone call, is perfect for the travel trade. Have a think about it. Have a think about it from the perspective of time on site. I was working with a business where one of their guides had a nickname, 2 Hour Tony. As far as he was concerned, if you weren't with him for 2 hours, he wasn't going to give you a tour. Well, lots of tour operator business that you will get, particularly if it comes on a coach as part of a day trip or as a multi-day trip, won't necessarily have 2 hours with you. So it might mean that you need to refine your product so that you can also deliver it in an hour. Now, you may turn around to me and say, Mike, there is absolutely no way on earth my product will work in an hour. It's a 3-hour product. Fine. But then don't sell that product to a group tour operator. People who can spend 3 hours with you are going to be people who are traveling individually. So then you suddenly think, oh, hang on a minute, I may not have a group's product, but I've got an FIT product. Ah, I did not think of that. So we nuance our product accordingly. And we nuance our product about, can we open early if people pay us enough money? Can we stay open late if people pay us enough money? Lots of people don't want to be with groups, particularly of school kids. Lots of people want to travel at a time that suits them and suits what they want and how they want their experience. Can you adapt your core offer to a higher paying, smaller group audience? Lots of things for you just to think about. Because you can be absolutely consumer ready, but not travel trade ready, unless you review your product and just think about it from that perspective. Because in the end, you can always look to add additional aspects to make your experience stand out. Okay? But just remember that if you add these additional aspects, you don't really want them to be a one-off. You want them to be something that the tour operator can sell to their clients over and over. So it comes back to our 3 R's. Is this a reliable upsold product? Is it a replicable upsold product? Is it something that we can adapt if we had to because something didn't quite go according to the master plan? Okay? Because when we start talking to the travel industry, which you will, I hope, do with increased confidence, there are really only 4 things that the buyer of your product, the tour operator, the OTA, will want to know. Okay? They will want to know how much is it going to cost them. They're going to want to know how long are my clients going to be with you. They're going to want to know how often can I sell this? And they're going to want to know how many people can I sell this to? I see lots and lots of suppliers in the industry turn up to buyer events, so meetings where you have like 9 minutes to kind of, speed date with a buyer. And they come there with brochures and they come there with 5-minute videos of drone footage of their beautiful and wonderful product. And they come there with a whole great big sales deck. But that's not what these relationships are about. You don't want to be having that kind of conversation with someone who wants to contract with you. They want to know how much, how long, how many, how often. Because for them, they want to know, can I easily put this into an itinerary? Can I blow my client's socks off? And can I make some money out of this? They want to know what's in it for me, just like you all want to know, well, hang on a minute, what's in it for me? So my argument for you guys is what's in it for you is that you're going to make money from your spare capacity. So where you were making 0 income, you are going to be making 80% income when you take the commission into account or whatever it is. Okay, that's the what's in it for you. For the buyer, what's in it for them is, can I fit this in easily? Is it going to be epic? Now, with your 3 R's in place, the answer to that is, yeah, totally going to be epic. I have a product that fits how long you want to be with us, that fits the number of clients you want to bring to us. We're not going to tell you we can cope with 250 people when we know we can only cope with 100. We know how to do this from a travel trade perspective. I hope that will make sense. So as I say, when we're planning on meeting or working with the travel trade, don't sales pitch the buyer. That is what people who haven't gone through training with me do. More fool them. It doesn't work. They don't really walk away going, I'm super inspired by having yet another sales pitch thrown at me. Okay. What we are going to do is we are going to create an elevator pitch. I know. I can see for those of you on camera, they are just like, yay, elevator pitches, hurrah. Okay. Save your cynicism. I promise you. We are thinking smarter, and we are going to establish ourselves and your business in the mind of a buyer in a way that sticks. And this is how we're going to do it. Yes, it's another logo. And yes, it's mine. So, Instant Expert. It is a tried and tested way of providing buyers and their sales teams with the information that they need. Okay? When we think about the how much, how long, how many, how often. And we pose the responses to those kind of questions in 3 columns. Now, after this session, Sally is going to send out a template for you to complete. And it has got guided questions for you to respond to. So you'll see it. It's just a 1-slide PowerPoint. Okay, nothing complicated. And it will answer the key questions for a tour operator or anybody or an OTA in terms of need to know, good to know, and most importantly, did you know? So I'm going to explain this just a little bit now. I know you're not looking at the template, but don't worry about it. The need to know is stuff like your address, your what 3 words locator if people can't easily find you, any really core things about health and safety or things like that. Okay, those are your need to know facts. And also I've outlined your suggested responses in that. Your good to knows are all the things like the best time to visit. So you avoid school groups, you avoid your 3A groups or whatever it is. It is things like, do I have a restaurant or cafe on site? It is the type of upsells that you can offer. So your personalized visitor experiences. And your did you knows are all of your quirky facts that you know because this is your product. But the person who is trying to sell, which is the sales team, don't know because they're in a warehouse in Wisconsin and they work for an American tour operator who in turn works exclusively for a UK-based destination management company. Right? Those people are far away from your product. They're never going to come to visit. Okay? So you need to inspire them, and you inspire them by including on this template some quirky facts about your product. Some really interesting moments where if you stand at this point and you look to your left, you will see something beautiful. It is painting the picture that the sales teams will use. And I know they use this because Instant Expert is used by dozens and dozens of products and hundreds of presentations across most of the UK travel trade when they're doing sales training for agents around the world. So I promise you this does work. And you can have a go at filling in your own template, which is specified towards your business type. Okay, so you're not going to be doing one. If you're not a hotelier, you're not going to be doing one for accommodation. You'll be doing one for a visitor experience. You're doing one if you're a guide. You'll be doing one if you are like a ground handling type of business. It's specified more or less to you. And feel free, and I'll share my details at the end, feel free to send it back to me and we can have a chat about it if you've got any conversations about that. Expectations and satisfaction are very, very closely linked. And it's true of the people who come to you directly. And it's true of any business that you get through the travel industry. Okay. Businesses tend to focus on the consumer, but you are also going to be building a relationship with tour operators and with OTAs. And this level or this balance, if you like, between expectation and satisfaction needs to be maintained across the board. And you can do that by getting to know these people and having the opportunity to speak to them and learn about what they want and engage with them through Sally and through the huge amount of work that Sally does. Because working with the travel trade, your inbound marketing strategy is not a standalone. It's part and parcel of what you do as a business. Okay. But you cannot expect immediate results. It can take a year to get embedded into the thinking of tour operators. Sally is many things, but she is not magic. And she can't just take new product to market and go, ta-da, go get selling. It doesn't work like that. So you also need to manage your expectations. All right. And I've been doing this a very long time, and it does take around a year normally to bed in product. It takes less time if you're going to go through an online tour operator, an online channel like TripAdvisor Experiences, for example, because obviously once it's live, people can see it. If they like it, they'll buy it. But being the most famous product, being the biggest product, is not necessarily what's going to make you a great travel trade product. Okay? Being easy to work with, being a great experience, being something that resonates with the audience that the tour operator is working with. Okay? That is what will make you stand out. And you need to remember that you are creating B2B, business to business relationships with these people, either directly or with Sally's support. Okay? They can be engaged with. We are real people. You can actually physically come and meet us. You can go to events where Sally goes to, like World Travel Market, for example. Or you can join organizations that Sally also belongs to, like the European Tour Operators Association or UK Inbound, and come along to events and meet buyers. There are lots of opportunities, and Sally can share a lot of that with you. Okay. But the phrase, if you like, the image you can see on the right is something that I thought of a couple of years ago at the back end of lockdown, when I really wanted to think about what tourism actually is. And I realized that tourism is in fact the single most inclusive thing on the planet. Because the second we walk out of whatever it is that we call home, whether it's the back of our van, the back of our house, our tent, whatever it is, the second we are not at home, we are part of a visitor economy. Every coffee that we buy in a shop, every pastry, every newspaper, every anything is part of a visitor economy. We are all interconnected in this way. Whatever your experience is interconnected. And if you can be the surprise and the delight for your consumers that you see directly, you can be the surprise and delight through someone selling you through a third party, filling in the gaps in your availability. And Sally and the team at Cotswolds Tourism do so much on everything from itinerary planning to trade events, as I mentioned. You can see the imagery here. Familiarization trips. If Sally says to you, we've got some tour operators coming, we'd love to come and visit your venue with these tour operators. Open your doors, host them. Show them what they can get. Show them the surprise and delight. Okay? Get involved in the regional and the travel trade newsletters. Put your information forward. Think of it from a tour operator's perspective, not from a consumer's perspective. You'll learn about that as you are doing your templates. But for now, that's me. So I hope this has been fun. I hope this has been useful. And I hope that you can walk away with some actionable knowledge points here. I shall now finally, and I promise you, I'm as relieved as you are. I'm going to stop talking. And feel free to ask me any questions you like. This is my email address, Mike Newman at B2me.net. Feel free to drop me a note. Otherwise, this would be the point where you would be wildly applauding and asking me for autographs, but I'm not expecting that. So I should just stop sharing and open up for questions.
Yeah, Mike, if you stop sharing, that's brilliant. Then I'll share again in a moment. Has anybody got any questions first? Thank you, Mike, for your knowledge, as always. Okay, so we'll come back to just sharing. Excellent. And what I would say is, whilst we've been on this webinar, it just shows how things trickle through. We've had a walking inquiry from Live Travel and Tours. So Hannah, I will probably be in touch with yourself straight after. There's an opportunity straight away. Right. So how to get further involved now in the Help to Thrive project is obviously book onto any of the other virtual webinars that are coming up, and there will be drop-in clinics as well. As Mike has said, we're here to support you as businesses, and we want to encourage businesses around the area that are not already engaged with the travel trade to learn more about that and get involved. For us as a destination, it's all about visitor dispersal, and we know obviously the operators love Byberry, they love Bolton on the Water, and whilst those are wonderfully pretty villages, we want to encourage visitor dispersal as well, and ensure that sort of more businesses and more high streets in particular get to more of that visitor spend, and we keep them in the area, as Mike has said, encouraging them to stay. There is some limited sort of one-to-one support. So as part of this project, Tewkesbury Borough businesses, Cotswold District and West Oxfordshire businesses are able to get further one-to-one support paid for by this project. You would need to complete an expression of interest form. The one-to-one support can be such as copywriting. We held a storytelling workshop yesterday about how you effectively, those facts that Mike was talking about on his document, what are your quirky facts? So there's help around that. Obviously, imagery is vital. And again, literally whilst we've been on this webinar, I've had an inquiry from Visit Britain Spain wanting imagery for a tour operator over there. So it's key we get that, and the, continue to support you with that guidance. As I highlighted earlier, there's the virtual Experience Maker workshop on the 14th. And then our key priorities as a destination, I think it's worth just sort of highlighting this, is the fact that, yes, we go to all these shows. Yes, there are lots of operators that bring coaches, but as you've probably seen in the press, for us, it's around those niche operators that are FIT, fully independent, and that will come year round and want those engagements with us as locals. So whether that is a guided walk, looking at sort of the history and the heritage of the area, or whether it's a dining experience, those are the sorts of things that we want to include. And all the councils in the area, obviously climate change is big on their agendas. So having that sustainable focus of walking, cycling, and arriving by train is also good. And anything that within those themes really that you see on the screen there. So all of us on this call, I think, have got those in abundance. So we are definitely here to support you as businesses. So if anybody's got any questions, now is the time to do that. Otherwise, I will be in touch with you all individually, and thank you for your time today. And if you've got any direct questions that you would rather ask off screen, then feel free to drop Mike or myself an email. My email address is sally.graff@cotswold.gov.uk. Okay. Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, brilliant. That's lovely. No
Thank
hands
you,
up? No? Okay, lovely. Well, we'll see you all again, and thank you very much. Thanks,
Lovely.
Mike.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks very much, Sally. Thanks, Mike. It was much appreciated.
Bye-bye.